My beloved brothers and sisters, when someone hurts you, the first reaction is often to explain yourself, to argue, to defend your pain, or to respond with the same emotion they gave you. But Islam teaches us a higher response, one that protects your dignity instead of feeding the situation. Not every wound needs a reaction, and not every hurt deserves your energy. Sometimes the strongest response is calm silence. Not because you are weak, but because you are wise. When you stop reacting emotionally, you take away the power people think they have over your heart. You choose control over chaos, patience over impulse, and faith over ego. This reminder will show you how to respond to hurt with strength, how to protect your peace without revenge, and how to let Allah handle what you no longer need to carry. Because when someone hurts you, your power is not in hurting them back. It is in rising above with dignity and trust in Allah. Do not react from emotion. When pain strikes suddenly, emotion rushes forward before wisdom has time to speak. The heart feels wounded, the mind becomes restless, and the tongue feels pressured to respond immediately. Islam teaches us to pause at this exact moment. Not every feeling deserves an instant reaction. Emotions are real, but they are not always reliable guides. When you react from emotion, you often speak from hurt rather than truth. Words said in pain may feel relieving for a moment, but they often carry regret that lasts much longer. Allah teaches us self-control because He knows the damage unchecked emotion can cause. Strength is not found in instant response. It is found in restraint. When you pause, remember Allah, and delay your reaction, you protect your dignity. You give your heart time to settle and your mind time to regain balance. This pause is not weakness. It is obedience. It is choosing faith over impulse and wisdom over temporary relief. Emotional reactions often deepen wounds instead of healing them. When someone hurts you, your immediate response may escalate the situation, turning pain into conflict. Islam teaches us that escalation rarely brings peace. A calm heart sees clearly, but an emotional heart sees only the wound. When emotions take control, the ego demands defense, justification, or retaliation. But the ego does not heal the soul. Allah calls us to rise above the ego by practicing sabr in the moment of provocation. Sabr is not passive suffering. It is active self-control. When you resist reacting emotionally, you take back control of your inner state. You stop allowing others to dictate your behavior. This control protects your character and preserves your faith. Over time, you realize that many situations resolve themselves when you do not fuel them with emotional reactions. Reacting emotionally often places your peace in the hands of others. Your mood rises or falls based on what they say or do. Islam teaches independence of the heart. A believer's peace should be anchored in Allah, not in people's behavior. When you react emotionally, you hand power to the one who hurt you. When you pause, you reclaim that power. Silence and restraint remove the reward of reaction. Many people provoke others not for truth, but for response. When no reaction comes, the provocation loses its force. This is wisdom. Allah loves those who control their anger, because anger clouds judgment and weakens faith. By not reacting emotionally, you protect your iman from being damaged by temporary feelings. The Prophet ﷺ, who alayhi was harmed, insulted, and rejected, yet he mastered emotional control. His reactions were guided by revelation, not by impulse. This prophetic example teaches us that emotions should be acknowledged, not obeyed blindly. Feeling hurt is human. Acting from hurt without wisdom is dangerous. Islam allows emotion, but disciplines expression. When the believer follows this path, their responses become measured and meaningful. They speak when speech benefits and remain silent when silence protects. This balance preserves honor. Emotional restraint transforms pain into dignity. It allows Allah to handle matters beyond your control. Emotional reactions often demand immediate justice, but Allah's justice operates on perfect timing. When you react emotionally, you may rush ahead of Allah's plan. Patience allows Allah's wisdom to unfold. Many times what feels urgent is not actually necessary. When you wait, clarity emerges. Emotions do not react from emotion fade, but consequences remain. Islam teaches us to delay action when emotions are high because clarity comes with calm. This delay is mercy from Allah. It protects you from decisions that may haunt you later. The believer learns that not every feeling needs expression. Some feelings need healing through remembrance, prayer, and silence. Reacting emotionally can also distort intentions. You may begin to act not to please Allah, but to satisfy the ego or prove a point. This shift weakens sincerity. Islam values intentions deeply. When emotions dominate, intentions blur. By pausing, you realign your heart with Allah. You ask yourself whether your response will bring reward or regret. This reflection strengthens faith. It trains the soul to prioritize obedience over impulse. Over time, this discipline becomes a habit, and the believer grows calmer, wiser, and more resilient. Emotional restraint also protects relationships. Many relationships are damaged not by the original hurt, but by the reaction to it. Harsh words spoken in anger can destroy trust quickly. Islam values harmony and reconciliation. By not reacting emotionally, you keep the door open for healing. Silence allows space for understanding. Even if reconciliation does not happen, your character remains intact. Allah rewards character even when outcomes are painful. Preserving character is more valuable than winning an argument. When emotions are high, Shaitan finds opportunity. He whispers exaggeration, fuels anger, and pushes the believer toward regretful actions. Islam teaches remembrance at moments of anger precisely because it interrupts this influence, saying, and stepping back creates distance between emotion and action. This distance protects faith. The believer learns that control in moments of hurt is a shield against spiritual harm. Emotional restraint is not suppression. It is protection. Over time, the believer who practices emotional control experiences inner strength. They are no longer easily shaken. Hurt still comes, but it does not dominate. This strength brings peace. Peace improves worship. Worship strengthens connection with Allah. This cycle builds a stable heart. A stable heart does not react impulsively. It responds thoughtfully. This response reflects maturity in faith. In the end, not reacting from emotion is an act of trust in Allah. You trust Him with justice, healing, and outcomes. You choose calm over chaos, patience over impulse, and faith over ego. And when you master this choice, you discover that true strength is not loud or reactive. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in Iman. Silence can be a powerful boundary. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. But in Islam, silence can be one of the strongest boundaries a believer sets. When someone hurts you, pressures you, or crosses your limits, you may feel obligated to explain yourself or defend your position. Yet, silence says more than words ever could. It communicates self-respect without aggression and firmness without hostility. By choosing silence, you refuse to engage in exchanges that drain your peace. Allah teaches us that not every situation requires a response. Some situations require distance. Silence creates that distance without cruelty. It protects the heart from being pulled into unnecessary conflict and preserves dignity when emotions run high. This form of silence is intentional, not fearful. It is rooted in trust that Allah sees, hears, and understands. When you remain silent with clarity, you place a boundary that says your peace is not available for harm. Silence becomes powerful when it replaces emotional reaction. Many people provoke others hoping for a response. They want words, explanations, or visible pain. When silence meets provocation, the cycle breaks. The believer denies negativity the attention it seeks. Islam teaches us not to feed conflict. Silence starves it. This restraint prevents escalation and keeps the heart calm. A calm heart is closer to Allah than a reactive one. Silence allows the believer to step back, reflect, and choose wisdom over impulse. This choice strengthens faith. It shows mastery over the self, which is a form of jihad. The Prophet Sallallahu reflect and choose wisdom over impulse. Silence in this sense is not absence. It is control. A powerful boundary does not need to be announced. Silence works quietly but effectively. When you stop responding to disrespect, you teach others how to treat you without confrontation. You make it clear that certain behavior will no longer receive access to you. This clarity protects your emotional and spiritual well-being. Islam values clarity because it prevents ongoing harm. Silence sets limits without inviting argument. It keeps the believer safe from saying words they may regret. Words once spoken cannot be silenced as a boundary retrieved, but silence preserves the record. Allah loves those who restrain themselves when provoked, and He rewards that restraint generously. Silence also protects sincerity. When you explain yourself repeatedly, intentions can shift from pleasing Allah to pleasing people. Silence removes that temptation. You no longer feel pressured to justify your choices or emotions. You place your trust in Allah's knowledge rather than people's understanding. This trust strengthens a man. The believer learns that not being understood by everyone is not a loss. Being understood by Allah is enough. Silence reinforces this truth gently but firmly. In many situations, silence is a form of self-care. Islam permits, the heart has limits. Constant dialogue with hurtful people exhausts it. Silence allows the heart to rest. Rest restores clarity. Clarity strengthens faith. Islam does not demand constant availability. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam withdrew at times for reflection and peace. This teaches us that stepping back is not abandonment, it is balance. Silence creates space for healing that arguments never allow. Silence also protects relationships from permanent damage. Words spoken in anger often leave scars that cannot be erased. Silence prevents these scars. Even if the relationship does not heal, the believer's character remains intact. Allah values character over outcome. Silence ensures that dignity is preserved even when closeness is not possible. This preservation is mercy toward the self and toward others. Some people fear silence will be misunderstood. But Islam teaches us that intention matters more than interpretation. When silence is chosen for peace, Allah records it as wisdom. People may think what they want, but their thoughts do not define your worth. Silence frees you from the burden of managing perceptions. This freedom brings calm. Silence as a boundary also limits manipulation. Manipulation thrives on conversation, explanation, and emotional response. Silence removes these tools. The believer regains control over their emotional space. This control strengthens self-respect. Self-respect reinforces faith. Allah does not want His servants emotionally exposed to harm. Over time, silence reshapes the believer. They become less reactive, more observant, and more composed. Their presence carries weight without noise. This composure reflects inner strength. Strength rooted in faith is stable and enduring. Silence nurtures the strength quietly. In the end, silence can be a powerful boundary because it protects peace, preserves dignity, and keeps the heart connected to Allah. It does not seek victory over others. It seeks safety for the soul. And when silence is chosen for the sake of Allah, He fills it with wisdom, strength, and music, lasting peace. Distance heals what arguments cannot. Many people believe that healing comes from talking more, music explaining more, or arguing until they are understood. But Islam teaches us that some wounds do not heal through words at all. They heal through distance. When emotions are raw and pain is fresh, arguments often deepen the injury instead of resolving it. Each word becomes a weapon. Each response fuels more misunderstanding. Distance, however, allows the heart to breathe. It removes the believer from the source of harm and gives space for calm to return. This space is not abandonment. It is wisdom. Allah does not require you to remain in places that continuously hurt you. Distance creates an environment where reflection replaces reaction. In that quiet, the heart begins to settle, and healing can finally begin. Arguments usually come from the desire to be understood. But understanding cannot be forced. When someone has already chosen not to listen, no amount of explanation will change them. Islam teaches us to recognize when effort turns into exhaustion. Distance protects the believer from wasting emotional energy on people who are not receptive. It preserves dignity and prevents regretful words. When you step back, you regain control over your inner state. This control strengthens faith. Allah values restraint more than endless debate. Distance allows Allah to work on hearts in ways arguments never can. Distance also allows perspective to return. When you are constantly engaging, emotions stay heightened. Hurt feels louder, anger feels justified, but when distance enters, clarity follows. The believer begins to see the situation more objectively. They recognize patterns, boundaries, and truths that were hidden in emotional noise. Islam values reflection because reflection leads to wisdom. Distance gives space for reflection. It allows the believer to reconnect with Allah through dua and remembrance instead of constant conflict. This reconnection restores peace. Arguments often aim to change. Distance heals what arguments cannot others. But distance focuses on healing the self. Islam teaches that you are responsible for your actions, not for controlling others. Distance shifts attention inward. It allows the believer to ask, what does my heart need to heal, rather than how do I make them understand? This shift is powerful. It moves the believer from desperation to stability. Allah strengthens those who protect their hearts with wisdom. Distance becomes a form of self-respect guided by faith. Some people fear that distance is unforgiving. But Islam distinguishes between forgiveness and access. You can forgive without remaining exposed to harm. Distance does not mean hatred. It means boundaries. It allows forgiveness to be sincere rather than forced. When you remain too close to ongoing harm, forgiveness becomes resentment in disguise. Distance gives forgiveness room to breathe. It allows the heart to release pain gradually. Allah loves hearts that forgive without destroying themselves in the process. Distance also interrupts unhealthy cycles. Arguments often repeat the same patterns without resolution. The same words, the same pain, the same outcome. Distance breaks the cycle. It stops the repetition and creates a pause. In that pause, Allah places wisdom. Sometimes hearts soften only when silence replaces noise. Distance gives Allah space to intervene. Many conflicts resolve not because of words spoken, but because space allowed reflection. Distance protects character. Arguments can pull the believer into behavior they later regret. Harsh words, raised voices, and wounded pride damage the soul. Distance prevents this damage. It allows the believer to remain calm, respectful, and faithful. Allah rewards those who protect their character, even when hurt. Preserving character is more valuable than winning any argument. Distance supports this preservation. Distance also heals the body and mind. Emotional stress affects sleep, focus, and health. Islam values well-being because it supports worship. A disturbed heart struggles to pray with presence. Distance reduces stress. Reduced stress restores balance. Balance strengthens Iman. This change shows why distance is sometimes necessary for spiritual health. Some relationships can heal only after space is created. When distance is respected, communication later becomes healthier, calmer, and more sincere. Even if reconciliation does not happen, the believer emerges stronger and more peaceful. Islam values peace over forced closeness. Closeness without respect is not closeness at all. Distance restores respect. In the end, distance heals what arguments cannot because it removes noise, restores clarity, and protects the heart. It allows Allah to replace chaos with calm and pain with wisdom. When distance is chosen for the sake of Allah, it becomes a means of healing, strength, and lasting peace. Do not seek closure from the one who caused the wound. One of the deepest mistakes people make after being hurt is searching for closure from the very person who caused the pain. The heart hopes that an explanation, apology, or final conversation will bring peace. But Islam teaches us that peace does not always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from acceptance. When someone wounds you, they are often unable or unwilling to heal you. Expecting them to provide closure places your healing in their hands, and that keeps the wound open. Allah never asks you to depend on people for your inner peace. He asks you to depend on Him. Closure given by people is fragile and conditional. Closure given by Allah is stable and lasting. When you release the need for explanations, your heart begins to heal naturally. You stop reliving the pain and start moving forward with trust. This release is not denial, it is surrender. And surrender to Allah brings calm that conversations never could. Seeking closure from the one who hurt you often leads to more disappointment. Music, you may not receive the response you hoped for. You may be blamed, dismissed, or misunderstood. Again, each of these outcomes deepens the wound instead of closing it. Islam teaches us to protect the heart from repeated harm. When Allah closes a door, it is often mercy. Reopening it for closure can reopen pain. Wisdom lies in recognizing when a chapter has ended. Allah knows what you need to heal even when people do not. Turning to Allah instead of the one who hurt you shifts your focus from pain to purpose. This shift is essential for recovery. Healing begins when you stop waiting for others to fix what they broke and allow Allah to restore what was lost. Closure does not require answers to every question. Many questions will never be answered in this life. Islam prepares the believer for this reality. Faith teaches us to live with uncertainty while trusting Allah's justice. When you seek closure from people, you seek certainty where it may never exist. When you seek closure from Allah, you find peace even without explanations. Allah replaces unanswered questions with reassurance. He reminds the heart that nothing happens without wisdom. This reminder soothes the soul. Do not seek closure from the one who hurt you. The believer learns that closure is not about understanding everything, but about trusting the one who understands all things. Often the desire for closure comes from the ego wanting validation. The heart wants the other person to admit wrongdoing. But healing does not require validation from the one who caused the harm. Allah validates your pain. He witnesses every tear, every sleepless night, every silent prayer. This divine validation is enough. When you accept that Allah sees you fully, the need for human acknowledgement fades. This acceptance strengthens faith. It allows the believer to let go without bitterness. Letting go is not forgetting. It is choosing peace over repetition of pain. Seeking closure can keep the believer emotionally tied to the wound. Each attempt to revisit the past delays healing. Islam encourages moving forward with dignity. The Prophet taught us not to remain stuck in what harms us. Distance and acceptance free the heart. When you stop seeking closure from people, you reclaim your emotional independence. You stop giving power to those who hurt you. This independence restores confidence and calm. Allah loves when His servants rise above harm with trust, rather than chasing resolution from those who caused pain. Closure from Allah often comes through time reflection and spiritual growth. As time passes, clarity emerges. You begin to see lessons, strength, and protection in what once felt only painful. This perspective is a gift from Allah. It cannot be forced through conversation. It unfolds naturally when the heart is open to healing. Patience allows Allah's wisdom to surface. The believer learns that some wounds close quietly without words. Silence becomes medicine. Distance becomes relief. Faith becomes the anchor. Some people believe closure is necessary to forgive, but forgiveness in Islam is an internal act. It does not require dialogue. You can forgive without speaking. Forgiveness releases the heart from carrying resentment. It benefits the forgiver more than the forgiven. Allah rewards forgiveness done for His sake. Even when no apology is given, this reward replaces the need for closure. The heart feels lighter because it is no longer waiting for permission to heal. Seeking closure from the one who hurt you can also expose you to manipulation. Words may be twisted, blame may be shifted, pain may be minimized. Islam protects believers from this harm by encouraging reliance on Allah. Allah never manipulates. He never dismisses pain. He heals gently and completely. Turning to Him ensures safety for the heart. Safety is necessary for healing. When closure is sought from Allah, it often arrives as peace rather than answers. Peace settles music quietly in the heart. The pain loses its sharpness. The memory no longer controls emotions. This peace is a sign that Allah has taken over the healing. The believer realizes that they no longer need to revisit the wound. This realization is freedom in the end. Do not seek closure from the one who caused the wound. Seek it from Allah. He heals without harming, restores without questioning, and closes wounds without reopening them. And when Allah grants closure, it is complete, gentle, and lasting. Respond with character, not revenge. When someone wrongs you, the ego immediately demands revenge. It wants balance through pain, justice through retaliation, and relief through hurting back. But Islam teaches us a higher response, character. Revenge may feel powerful in the moment, but it chains your heart to the harm that was done. Character, on the other hand, frees you from it. Allah did not create you to become like those who hurt you. He created you to rise above with dignity. When you respond with character, you protect your soul from becoming bitter. You refuse to let pain turn you into someone you were never meant to be. This restraint is not weakness. It is strength guided by faith. Allah sees the injustice and He promises justice. When you choose character, you trust Allah's promise over your impulse. That trust brings peace long after revenge would have faded into regret. Revenge keeps the wound alive. Each attempt to hurt back reopens the pain and prolongs the emotional connection to the offender. Islam teaches us to sever this connection, not strengthen it. Character breaks the cycle. It allows healing to begin without creating new harm. The believer who chooses character understands that their peace is more valuable than temporary satisfaction. Revenge may feel like control, but it actually gives control to anger. Character gives control back to the heart. Allah loves those who restrain themselves when angry because restraint protects faith. When you respond with character, you preserve your integrity. Integrity is a treasure that cannot be replaced once lost. Islam prioritizes this inner wealth over external victory. The Prophet faced betrayal, mockery, and injustice more than anyone. Yet, he responded with character. Not revenge never allowed revenge to shape his response. His character remained consistent regardless of how others behaved. This teaches us that character is not reactive. It is rooted. It does not rise and fall with circumstances. When the believer follows this example, they become emotionally stable. They do not mirror harm, they reflect values. Allah elevates those who reflect His mercy and justice in their behavior. Responding with character aligns you with the prophetic path. Revenge pulls you away from it. This alignment matters more than winning any moment. Revenge often disguises itself as justice, but justice in Islam is not driven by emotion. It is measured, fair, and guided by wisdom. Acting in anger rarely produces justice, it produces excess. Excess leads to regret. Character prevents excess. It keeps the believer within the limits Allah set. When wronged, you may seek justice through lawful means, but revenge seeks emotional relief, not fairness. Islam separates the two clearly. Character allows you to pursue justice without poisoning your heart. This distinction protects Iman. When you choose character, you also protect your future. Words and actions taken in revenge can damage relationships, reputations, and opportunities permanently. Islam teaches foresight. Character considers consequences. It asks whether a response will please Allah and preserve peace. Revenge ignores consequences. It only cares about now. The believer who thinks long-term chooses character. This choice saves them from burdens they would otherwise carry for years. Allah rewards those who act with wisdom beyond the moment. Responding with character also teaches others more than revenge ever could. Revenge provokes defensiveness. Character invites reflection. When someone expects retaliation and instead meets dignity, it unsettles their conscience. Even if they never admit it, the lesson remains. Allah uses character to soften hearts in ways force never can. This does not mean tolerating harm repeatedly. It means responding without hatred. Boundaries can exist alongside character. Distance can coexist with dignity. Islam supports both. Revenge ties your heart to the past. Character releases it. When you stop seeking to hurt back, you stop replaying what hurt you. Your energy returns to growth, worship, and healing. This redirection strengthens faith. Allah wants believers focused on what elevates them, not what drains them. Character redirects the heart upward. Revenge drags it downward. The believer chooses elevation. Choosing character does not mean suppressing pain. Islam allows grief, sadness, and hurt, but it teaches us not to let pain dictate behavior. Character gives pain a safe outlet through dua, patience, and trust in Allah. These outlets heal rather than harm. Revenge multiplies pain. Character transforms it. Allah rewards transformation. When character becomes your response, your heart becomes lighter. You no longer carry the burden of proving strength through aggression. Your strength becomes internal. Internal strength lasts. External displays fade. Allah values what lasts. This is why character is beloved to Him. Responding with character also preserves your self-respect. Revenge often leaves shame once emotions settle. Character leaves peace. Peace strengthens confidence. Confidence strengthens Iman. This chain protects the believer deeply. Allah promises that those who forgive or restrain themselves will be honored. That honor may not come immediately, but it comes surely. Revenge demands immediate results. Character trusts delayed reward. Faith thrives on this trust. When you respond with character, you align with Allah's timing rather than your emotions. In the end, responding with character instead of revenge frees you from anger, preserves your faith, and protects your dignity. Revenge reacts to harm, character transcends it. And when you choose character for the sake of Allah, He replaces what was taken from you with peace, strength, and honor that no revenge could ever give. Let Allah be your defender. When you are wronged, the instinct of the ego is to defend yourself immediately, to explain, justify, and prove your innocence. But Islam teaches us a deeper form of strength: to let Allah be your defender. Allah knows the truth of every situation. Even when people misunderstand or misrepresent you, when you trust Allah with your reputation, your heart becomes lighter. You stop carrying a burden that was never meant for you to hold. Allah does not need your words to reveal the truth. He does not need arguments to establish justice. When you step back and place your trust in Him, He handles matters with wisdom far beyond human ability. This trust is not passive, it is powerful. It requires faith to believe that silence today can lead to honor tomorrow. Allah defends in ways that protect your dignity. Your let Allah be your defender future and your iman all at once. When Allah is your defender, no false accusation can permanently harm you. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control how they are perceived. They respond to every rumor, clarify every misunderstanding, and argue every false claim. This constant defense drains the soul. Islam frees the believer from this exhaustion by teaching reliance on Allah. When you allow Allah to defend you, you step out of the battlefield of opinions. You stop reacting to noise and start resting in certainty. Allah's defense does not rely on volume. It relies on truth. Truth does not need urgency. It unfolds with time. The believer who trusts Allah understands that not every accusation deserves a response. Some accusations deserve patience. Allah exposes lies without damaging the character of His servant. This divine defense preserves peace, while human defense often destroys it. Letting Allah defend you also protects you from saying things you may regret. When emotions are high, words often cause more harm than healing. By stepping back, you allow Allah to manage the situation without emotional interference. Islam teaches us that Allah is Al, the most just. He does not forget, overlook, or misjudge. When people wrong you, Allah records it fully. When people speak falsely, Allah hears every word. Trusting this truth calms the heart. You no longer feel pressured to respond immediately. This restraint is rewarded. Allah honors those who restrain themselves and rely on Him. That honor may come quietly, but it comes surely. The Prophet ﷺ was falsely accused, insulted, and opposed. Yet he did not rush to defend himself in every situation. He trusted Allah to reveal the truth at the right time, and Allah did. This prophetic example teaches us that defense does not always require words. Sometimes it requires patience, sometimes it requires silence, and sometimes it requires distance. The believer who follows this example learns that Allah's timing is perfect. What seems delayed is often protection. What seems unfair is often a test of trust. Allah never abandons the one who relies on Him sincerely. When you let Allah be your defender, you remove ego from the situation. Ego wants recognition, validation, and victory. Faith wants peace, reward, and closeness to Allah. These two paths cannot be walked together. Letting Allah defend you means choosing faith over ego. It means accepting that people may misunderstand you for a time, but time belongs to Allah, and Allah reveals truth in ways that human effort never could. This choice strengthens the soul. It teaches humility. It deepens trust, and it frees the heart from the need to be constantly understood. Allah's defense often comes through outcomes rather than explanations. Situations change, doors open, false narratives collapse. People see the truth without you saying a word. This is the beauty of divine justice. It is clean. It does not require bitterness or revenge. It does not leave stains on your character. When Allah defends you, He does so without costing you your peace. Human defense often demands emotional payment. Divine defense restores emotional balance. This difference is profound. Letting Allah defend you also protects your spiritual state. Constant conflict hardens the heart and distracts from worship. When you hand matters over to Allah, your heart becomes available again for prayer, remembrance, and gratitude. Islam prioritizes the state of the heart over public perception. A heart at peace is more valuable than a reputation won through arguments. Allah cares about what you carry inside, not what people say outside. Trusting Him with defense protects that inner state. Some people fear that silence will allow injustice to continue, but Allah never allows injustice to go unseen. Silence does not mean acceptance. It means submission of the matter to divine justice. Allah's justice is complete even when delayed. Delay is not denial. Delay is wisdom. The believer understands this and does not rush Allah's plan. They trust that what is meant to surface will surface at the right moment. This trust removes anxiety and replaces it with calm certainty. When Allah defends you, He may also protect you from people you never knew were harmful. Sometimes false accusations reveal true intentions. Sometimes distance becomes a blessing. Allah defends not only your name but your future. He removes what would have damaged you further. This protection often comes disguised as pain, but later the believer realizes it was mercy. Trusting Allah allows you to see beyond the moment. Letting Allah be your defender also teaches you emotional independence. You stop needing people to confirm your truth. You stop chasing outrow, peace through dignity, apologies, or acknowledgments. Allah's knowledge becomes enough. This independence strengthens a man. It allows you to walk forward without looking back constantly. Healing accelerates when you stop reopening wounds for explanations. Allah closes wounds gently when you trust Him fully. Over time, the believer who relies on Allah becomes calmer and more composed. They are not easily shaken by criticism or praise. Their stability comes from faith, not approval. This stability is strength. Allah loves servants who rely on Him without panic. When you let Allah defend you, you grow spiritually even through injustice. Growth through hardship is one of Allah's greatest gifts. In the end, letting Allah be your defender means releasing control and embracing trust. It means believing that Allah sees what people deny, knows what people twist, and restores what people damage. When Allah defends you, He does so with justice, mercy, and perfect timing. And that defense is far more powerful than anything you could ever say or do yourself. My dear brothers and sisters, not every hurt needs a reaction, and not every pain requires an explanation. When someone wrongs you, your calm response becomes your strength, and your silence becomes your shield. Islam teaches us that dignity is preserved not by winning arguments, but by protecting the heart from unnecessary damage. You are not weak for choosing peace over conflict. You are not losing for walking away without revenge. Every time you control your response and place your trust in Allah, you rise above the harm and free yourself from its weight. Allah sees what was done to you even when no one else does. So move forward with grace. Let go of the need to be understood. Let Allah defend you, heal you, and restore your peace. Because when you respond to hurt with silence and strength, you choose faith over ego. And that choice brings true freedom.